Robbins is what, south?
It's in the middle of the state. It's closer to Macon. Yeah, Marietta is a little bit northwestish of Atlanta. But they've got a.
I was going to say, I always get Dobbins and Robbins messed up. Dobbins is south. Dobbins is north of the airport. Robbins is south of the airport.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, they actually have a vector center in Marietta too.
Exciting news, though.
Yeah, it's pretty cool stuff, man. It's a wild time. What a week, anyway, huh?
Jeez,
man. And for the people who are joining us, what is this vector center stuff you speak of?
Georgia, there's a program that was started up several years ago called Vector. It's Veteran Education Career Training Resource Center. That's right, acronyms. And essentially, it's a state-run veteran training program where veterans can go in and they can upskill, they can reskill, they can, they have soft skills, technical skills, all types of different education programs that they have available there. So, it's a pretty cool program. It's doing a lot of good things here in Georgia, and to the point where other states have come in and, they're emulating the same model now in other states, doing it their own way. But so Operation Bitcoin was approved to go in there starting next week and to deliver an introductory session on navigating digital currencies. And so that's our on-ramp to go in there. And of course, we know that whenever you talk about money, all roads are going to lead to Bitcoin. And so that is our approach. And so we launch on Monday. Pretty fired up.
That's amazing. Good for you. This is the way.
Are you going to just lead with "Don't shitcoin" when you walk in there, like knife hand and "Don't shitcoin"?
Actually, yeah. Did I already show you my presentation or? Okay. Yeah, man. God, I need to get some better material. Okay. But yeah, that's basically it. And then I'm going to say, what are your questions? And then we'll just take it from there.
Okay, I have two questions. Are you gonna incorporate the discussion around CBDCs and why soldiers should care about that?
Somewhat. It's not going to be in depth. I'm going to have 90 minutes. But yes, CBDCs will be touched on. But I'm not going to go into the details as to why they need to be aware of the dangers of them and how it impacts them. But yeah, it's meant to be a very high level introduction to it that is going to cap off at the ending point with okay, here we go, and now you kind of look through this little portal over here. Do you see that rabbit hole right there? Do you see what's right in there? Come on in. And then that's how it's going to end. But as we all know, that's actually how it begins.
Are you going to send them Bitcoin?
Not in that session, no. But we are going to we have other sessions planned out. And of course, we're going to say, okay, look, we also have this session, boom, 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 boom. Here's how you register for these. And that's when we're actually going to get them in. And yeah, we're going to show them how to transact. It's essentially leaning heavily on the Me Premier Bitcoin model. And that's what they do with their students that are coming through the Bitcoin Diploma program. And we will be including that in ours as well for the more advanced courses.
If you, I hope you get to the point of talking about the relationship of Bitcoin mining and energy. If you have plans on doing that, I would love to take part in that.
That's good. Yeah, because I would need somebody that knows more about it than I do to have an actual valuable conversation on it. So yeah, come on down to Georgia, man. We got some sweet tea and some barbecue, and yeah, make it feel right at home, dude.
Deal. See where I can fit you into my very tight schedule. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, Hobart, right.
I'll fight for you, man.
Oh, he was jet setting this weekend.
Yeah. Dude, I didn't get a break until literally yesterday. Yesterday was like my Sunday, and I vegged out and I didn't do a damn thing. I trained one client, and other than that, I basically just slept and didn't think.
Yeah, I was going to say, man, I was pretty wore out Sunday and Monday. I'm not going to lie. That was taxing.
Yeah, doing the Brave mission stuff and then hiking 7 miles in the middle of it. That was we hit some pretty high peaks, dude. I had no idea where we were.
You too, huh? No, I'm just kidding. No. Yeah, we traipsed all over the mountain on Saturday, man, and it was a beautiful day. Nice overcast day. Nice, good breeze coming out there. Not too hot, not too cold, any of that kind of stuff. And boy, what a fantastic day.
That's nice, man. It's beautiful country up there.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
We're gonna get you up there, Gabe.
Yeah, I need to.
Just to hang out, if nothing else.
I dig the mountains up there, man. I like LJ, Blue Ridge, of course, amazing. But yeah, I'll come on up there. Get lost with you.
the door is open, my man, and it's you can definitely get lost.
we have to induct you into the brotherhood at the tree.
All right, man.
People are going to go running with that one, Alex. Oh, man. Anyway, as everybody pours in here, if you're out there in the audience, obviously this is the pre-show. We have the great Lisa Hough here tonight with us. And if you got questions for her before we go live, is a great time to maybe ask some of those, because once we get going, usually it is a kind of a runaway train at that point, and there's no room for anybody outside the panel here to get questions in. So if you got questions and you're out there now is the time to ask them. And we are going to get into some pretty good stuff here tonight, especially with what's going on. Are you guys tracking everything that's going on in the news right now with Bitcoin Congress and the rest, anti-Semitism bills and everything else?
No, is there something happening?
Oh,
Yeah, you have to brief us.
Lisa's playing coy over there. What's happening?
No.
I have not heard anything about the Congress stuff, so you're gonna have to brief me on that one.
Yeah, so Congress came out. I guess it was yesterday, and a Republican of all people proposed a anti-Semitism bill to curb speech on what you can and cannot say about a certain religion here in the United States or around the world, for that matter. So, yeah, it's very interesting that this is, and it passed. It overwhelmingly passed. You only had, I think, 91 people out of 335 members of Congress that didn't vote for it. That's astounding. Mostly Republican supported.
Yeah, that's scary, actually.
Yeah.
It kind of is. I mean, it's just one little facet of like encroaching on the First Amendment, really. Like
Yeah.
the whole thing about policing people's speech and saying what you're allowed to say and what you're not allowed to say, and what is classified as hate speech and what is not hate speech. The thing that concerns me about it is, apparently, if I understand correctly, they named this one organization that is allowed to create the definition of anti-Semitism.
Was that APAC?
So, I'm not sure the name of it, but
Are we still on YouTube, everybody?
These are not elected officials by the American people.
Yeah.
So when you have this organization who's full of unelected people who can arbitrarily decide the definition of something that you might say that would be considered a crime, that's very concerning. Yeah.
What this goes even further than that, though, because there are some that are analyzing this, saying this not only is a free speech violation, it's also is going to be interpreted by some think the courts in saying that this is actually a anti-Christian type of bill, because obviously in Christianity they go through the course of history stating facts like, hey, yeah, the Jews kind of gave Jesus over to the Romans to murder him, and apparently that kind of stuff, that's what this covers. So this is definitely, I don't say frightening. I'm not scared of these people, but at the same time, they are obviously monsters and will do terrible things to people if they let them.
Kind of sounds like potentially pigeonholing opportunities to suppress certain facts of history too.
Yeah. Or to write your own history. Like if some organization has the ability to determine what anti-Semitism is, they can make it whatever they want. There's this series of little creeping changes that by themselves seem kind of maybe not so bad, but when you understand the second and third order effects of these things, they could be bad. Like there's this not to get into the politics of it, I'm going to, I guess, brought it up.
Whatever. Let's go.
So there's this new proposal from the White House to change a bunch of stuff having to do with taxes. And one of those things is that the proposal is if you fail to report taxes for 3 out of 5 years, that's considered a federal felony. So if they enact that, and you have a situation where there's a lot of people who aren't too pleased with the government right now, and I could see a time where people are saying, well, you're taking my tax money, you're sending it overseas in a way that I don't agree with. Nobody I know agrees with it. Somehow you guys up there in DC have decided that this is a good idea, but none of us think it's a good idea. So there might be people at some point who are like, yeah, I don't feel like this is represented anymore, right? So what happens then? If they don't file, right, for 3 years out of 5, then they're a felon according to the United States government. What else happens when you're a felon? Well, now you can't hold firearms.
Yep.
Right? So if you got some person who's
And you
like,
can't
yeah,
vote, right?
there's all kinds of things that happen, right? If you're
Yeah.
declared a felon or if you're charged with a felony and convicted of a felony. So yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of second and third order potential effects from stuff like this.
Yeah, getting pretty interesting.
My biggest thing is, like, before we go into the intro, my biggest thing is just like the last 3 years alone have shown that, well, you guys clearly don't need tax revenue. Like, you just sign away all the future tax revenue from people that don't even exist yet, pull it all forward.
They're
and
printing
then send it
like
overseas.
they're printing like $1 trillion every 100 days on average right now.
Yeah.
Totally
then
understandable. you guys saw Janet Yellen earlier in the week. We're fine, guys. Don't worry about any of this kind of stuff. This is Bitcoin Veterans. We have a hell of a show for you tonight. We got Lisa Hough here, and I think Jordan's going to be out. I've got Alex with me, Gabe, Mike, and we're still going to have a hell of a show. I don't know what our guy Jordan's doing, but he's going to miss out on this one for sure. And just so everybody knows, before we start, I'm going to drop out at some point. We got some plumbing issues, and I got to go take care of that. So, that's what everybody wants to hear. Going live. This is Bitcoin Veterans. Get ready. Yeah, let's go. This is Bitcoin Veterans. Fairly self-explanatory. We're Bitcoiners. We're veterans. We get together every Thursday night, 7 p.m. on the East Coast here in America and wherever else you are around the world. Thanks to X mostly, because YouTube doesn't like to play our stuff or take it down whenever we say things maybe we're not supposed to say. But we are here as Bitcoin Veterans to put you back on the mission. This show is aligned with Bitcoin incentives, the structure, and it's all about freedom, liberty, self-sovereignty. We get into talking about citadels, homeschool, homesteading, ham radios, you name it. If there's something out there and it's Bitcoin related, and maybe a little more self-reliance, resilience, and just kind of getting after it like these guys do in this audience, this is what Bitcoin Veterans is all about. We have a place for you. If you want to get in touch with us, you want to be part of this crowd, doesn't matter if you're a veteran or veteran adjacent or a civilian, none of that matters. Let us know. Drop us a comment. Drop us a message, and we will get you in the chats and get you hooked in to this amazing network. We have an amazing guest tonight. But before we do that, we have to pay the bills. We have a great sponsor. Alex is going to tell you a little bit about him.
All right. So our sponsor is KC Cattle Company. They understand the power of decentralization and going direct from producer to consumer. They also get Bitcoin. There's an interesting announcement. I'm not going to steal their thunder, but having to do with Bitcoin coming up really soon. They're on Nostr, they're on Twitter. DM them, say hi, get to know them a little bit. A portion of their sales goes towards helping vets in this pod specifically. A couple of different promos. Like for those of you who are in our Bitcoin Veterans chat groups, we have a special discount code where you can buy beef from KCC using fiat. Contact us for details. Also, they're offering special discounts for members of Bitcoin Veterans on beef if paid in Bitcoin. You can catch the links in the show notes or YouTube, Twitter posts, etc. Finally, when checking out, if you're paying with Bitcoin, add Bitcoin bets in the notes field at checkout, and you will get a free gift of the world's best tasting Wagyu hot dogs.
Awesome.
That's amazing.
Dude, I just got my stuff today, man. 6 boxes worth of cow. We just kept unloading it, and I'm telling you right now, you better have a big freezer. Like, I mean, you better have
How many square feet of freezer space for that half? You got there?
You know, I want to say we've got. You know what? I'm not even going to say, because it's one of the biggest deep freezers you can get, and I'm going to tell you, it packed it about half full. That's a lot of meat, ladies and gents, and I'm excited about it. All sorts of stuff. If you grill like I do, one of the biggest things that came in there was the brisket. I mean, you could knock somebody out. You might, if you dropped it from a 2nd-story building on somebody, you might kill them. It's that big of a brisket. Unreal. Bunch of everything else. I know.
And if you want to be a big, strong, burly man like Shane Hazel, you should order beef and eat beef. It's good for you.
Yeah, it's great for you. Every meal. Just get it in there. Anyway, we've got an amazing guest tonight. Lisa Hough is with us. Lisa is the Vice President of Strategic Relations with Custodia Bank, and previously was the Director of Client Solutions over at Unchained Capital. Both companies provide best-in-class Bitcoin custody solutions for U.S. entities, and Lisa is a force evangelizing Bitcoin, not crypto, at the Global Finance and Energy Conference, and consults with executives in energy, private equity, and leadership. I mean, I think she does it all. It's she's in forums, and they build theses on Bitcoin. She's got a decade of experience in natural gas trading, risks management. She's honed her skills and understanding across market dynamics in a renowned energy trading organizations, including Vastar Resources from Capital and Trade, and PG&E National Energy Group. Lisa, it is our absolute pleasure to have you here tonight. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, you left out Enron. That's probably the most renowned. That was a good time.
Somebody needs to get our guy that does the prep for this.
Jeez, Shane.
Just handle him. No, I'm the producer, darn it. You can blame all the production stuff on me.
Maybe people in the audience weren't even alive when Enron went down. I don't know.
There's a good chance that might be true.
It's possible.
Whippersnappers.
Very possible. Yeah.
Well, Lisa, we kind of started off the show on those really bright notes of what's happening at the U.S. Capitol tonight, and just kind of wondering, there's a lot going on with the the arrest of some major people in the Bitcoin space. What are your thoughts, just kind of coming into the show tonight, on the current events and where Bitcoin's at?
Yeah, well, I mean, you were just filling me in. The last 2 or 3 days, I've been head down. We've got some things that we're working on at Custodia that have taken all of my attention. Good things. So I'm not really caught up on all of the drama in Washington, but I'm sure it's displeasing to most of us Bitcoiners, no matter what it is.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think between the whole Roger Ver and the guys over at Samurai, like this, you kind of tell. I don't know how you guys feel about it, but it obviously we're in the fight you stage. I think we've been in the fight you stage for a while now. They're turning things up, and we were talking about, like, how a lot of what they're doing right now can be used against people, for felony charges and things like that. Just an idea going into tonight: be careful where you're out there. Understand where you're at in this game that they're playing. And I think it was Matt Hill from Start 9. I caught him on BTC Sessions last week, and one of the best pieces of advice, don't matter, was one of the things that he said. Go out there, do everything you need to do, and at the end of the day, don't matter enough to where these people want to be in your hip pocket, knowing about what you're up to, and on their radar for whatever reason.
Is that even possible if we're on podcasts all the time? I mean, we're
not talking about Bitcoin.
Yeah.
I think we're kind of small potatoes compared to guys like Elon Musk right now. And I'm not saying that Elon's maybe divorced of the system or any of that kind of stuff, but when you've got somewhat free speech, running around, and it's at least doing some damage to some of these types of people. I think there's obviously bigger fish to fry for those guys.
There's a spectrum too. Like there's a way you can talk about things that are effective that will gain you public support, and there's a way that doesn't necessarily gain you the public support, but will tick off potentially people who have a reason to come at you, right? So this is something that I learned from Nico from Simply Bitcoin. It's something that all of us who are creating content or speaking out or talking about Bitcoin and freedom and being able to transact freely with each other would be really good for us all to be well aware of. And yeah, just an example of that, like Jordan, if you're listening to this, like I'm talking to you, my friend. He comes pretty hard, Jordan. He's a wild man.
I really enjoy that side though. There's this whole movement takes everything above, right? As Matt was also saying, if you're going to be that martyr, I don't want you to be, but be prepared, obviously, that we're going to find out kind of who people are here in the very near future. And that in itself is one hell of a thing to say as America runs down this path. Lisa, you've done a lot in the energy space, and I think that's probably where some of this discussion should go. And seeing some of the tweets lately out there in the Twitterverse or X or whatever the hell we call it these days, talking about how some of the mining might be leaving America because of the power cost here. Can you speak to that a little bit?
It's something I have a hard time reconciling. Before I go into the energy side, though, I do just want to give my disclaimer. Nothing I say tonight is the opinion of Custodia Bank. These are my opinions. Custodia Bank is operational in many states, but not all. We are not FDIC insured. Custodia is a full reserve bank. And so they're my views, not Custodia's. So thank you for letting me get that out of the way. The energy thing is really hard to reconcile. I understand why miners are looking outside of the US, and they are, right? If we look at Marathon, and if we look at Marathon's public statements, Fred Thiel has said, in the next 5-ish years, they want to have 50% of their operations outside of the United States. To me, I don't think disturbing is really the right word, because I'm a free market advocate. But if you believe that national security is based on, kind of 3 things, right? The economic viability of our communities, the technological innovation that we create, and our military base, what does it say if we are offshoring manufacturing businesses, including Bitcoin mining, right? I think it's a huge negative for the United States. I think it's a huge negative economically. I think it takes jobs out of the US that, I don't know, I think Bitcoin is more American than maybe anything, right? It embodies the sovereign principles that we all hold dear, and that I think where America was started. So for us to, watch these businesses walk out of the United States would not be my first choice, but I understand why they're doing it, right? They're going to find cheap sources of power, and that absolutely is critical, because I just, I'm not a Bitcoin mining expert, as hopefully but I do have opinions that, I live in Texas. I went through the deregulation of the electricity markets when I was trading natural gas. All that was really unfolding. And I sort of lost my train of thought. That was really just unfolding. And so for us to be able to, plug and play Bitcoin miners into the Texas grid, like our friends at Riot have done, I don't really think is repeatable. For a whole variety of reasons. Maybe the data center industries have more success with structuring those long-term deals with utilities. They have much better credit, right? If I'm Amazon Web Services or if I'm Facebook, I have better credit than most Bitcoin miners. Maybe the public's excluded, but so I think that the hunt is on, right? The hunt is on for power all over the world, and to find it in ways that we're not even thinking about. I hope that in this sort of rush to move hash rate away, that we don't overlook just all the cool things that we can do within our own carbon footprint, right? Within the energy space in the United States. There are so many ways to harness power that aren't even on the roadmap of most people. I mean, there's few people that are ferreting it out, and it's like hugely exciting, because if you are, let's just say, for all scales, if I'm a mom and pop and I have natural gas wells out in the middle of nowhere, I am essentially a price taker, right? I take whatever dollars the pipeline wants to give me, or whatever the pipeline price is that they have determined for the month. That is what I get for the month. When you add the element of Bitcoin mining, I mean, if those guys drop down a Giga box or a Steve Barber hash hut, I mean, they can turn what is right now today negative 30-cent gas out in New Mexico into like a $6 realized gas price, right? To me, like, again, if we talk about just the micro communities around the United States, that's super cool. But then on a huge scale, one of the things that I've just learned is happening in the last couple of days is, I mean, it's been happening a while, but it's just come on my radar, is that there have been these partnerships or these JVs where you're looking at where pipeline compression, where people take gas off of a pipeline. And so when you do that, if the pipeline pressure is X, when you take it off, it's much less than X, right? And so they're using that step down in compression as energy to turn a turbine and then to plug Bitcoin miners into, right? Like, think of the efficiency in that deal and the scale, right? Most people probably are not aware that the United States, if you Google US natural gas pipelines, it is a spider web across the US. And every time you pull gas out of a pipeline, you have a change in compression. So that means all over the US, you have opportunity to capture power that's otherwise no one's even thought about it before. Mm-hmm. I think those things are super cool. I don't know. That's kind of what I like to talk about and think about, is just the creativity and the power it gives to individuals. I don't know. It's accretive to big businesses like these pipelines that are doing it. So I don't know. Yeah, I guess the folks are looking offshore. I wish they wouldn't, because again, I think Bitcoin is will be a huge piece of our national security going forward.
Yeah, is part of that though, some of the incentive to look offshore is part of that, like hedging regulatory risk. Like, in the current environment today, there was it wasn't that long ago that the White House came out with this proposal to tax Bitcoin miners at like 30% or increase their energy costs by like 30%, right? And like the whole game in Bitcoin mining is you got to find the cheapest power available. That will literally, if turned into law, would destroy Bitcoin mining in the United States as an industry, right? So, when you're dealing with massive capital deployment like some of these big public miners are doing, like, it sort of makes a little bit of sense that they're trying to hedge that.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, again, to go to Marathon, and I can't remember the specifics of the deal, but I do know in general that their deal in the UAE, their partners in the UAE basically said that they'd be mining Bitcoin even if there were no upside financially for the Bitcoin, right? Like, it stabilizes their energy distribution networks. And so for them, like it's just a stabilization factor. Forget the fact that they're now making Bitcoin and earning. I was going to say dollars, but I'm not sure we want dollars. They're making Bitcoin. Forget the fact they're making Bitcoin.
Yeah, and there's countries all over the world who are progressive thinkers. They're looking at Bitcoin as what it is. Like they don't, if they're not in control of the money printer. You know, the United States dollar is the world's reserve currency, world's trade currency, has been for many, many years, really ever since Bretton Woods. And the percentage of world trade that's being conducted in US dollars is shrinking year to year. But you see countries that see the advantages of doing this. They see the advantages of exploiting their natural energy. They see the advantages. Some of these countries are incredibly energy rich, but there's no capex incentive to kind of build energy generation. I saw a video today where the president of Kenya apparently has been talking to Marathon about deploying mining in their country as well. So I think this is a trend that's going to continue. I think if the United States screws this up with stupid regulations that push our domestic miners offshore, which, by the way, some of our miners are some of the biggest in the world. They're some of the smartest in the world. They do it better than anybody else. They know the tricks of the trade. They have the technology. And to force those guys offshore, I think is just, it's not great for the American people. Like, you're going to destroy jobs. You're going to destabilize potentially the grid stabilization advantages of these miners being on the grid. And there's just so many negatives to it. All for what? To protect the reserve currency, the dominance of the Federal Reserve. I mean, this is I'm not sure that's great for Americans.
I don't know. I think maybe we need to lose it to understand how precious it was.
Lose what? When you say lose it, what do you mean by that?
Lose this economic privilege that we have, that Alex Gladstein talks about. Like, we need to, like, we are literally, everything that, in my opinion, I don't want to get sideways with Elizabeth Warren, but everything that they have talked about, I view as backwards, right? You just are not thinking about this correctly. You are trying to defend your place in the world. And I just don't know. I mean, I feel like we're put here to do good work, and we're put here to serve others. At the end of the day, like, do these people in Washington really just want to be dead, buried in Arlington, and like think that what they actually did helped people? They know that they're not helping people. I just saw them with the CIA director who retired, who basically said, "Oh, we lied all the time, we cheated all the time." Like, okay, that's no huge surprise, but I don't know. You do any reading about Donald Rumsfeld or Dick Cheney, or, I mean, did they really think that they served the greater good, the world? And
well, I mean, the way I think of it is that, like, it seems to me that the traditions and the values of the American people are a meritocracy. You work hard, you do it right, you tell the truth, and you're rewarded if you produce something that's worthwhile for humanity, right? So there's a difference between doing that and then maintaining control of a legacy system through force and coercion and, like, dirty pool. There's a huge difference between those two things. And my personal opinion is we need to get back to the former. We need to get back to what America was built upon versus what it has become. And I think you could go anywhere in the world today and ask them their opinion of Americans, especially the American government. Because, well, I mean, we as Americans, it gets rubbed off on us by proxy. But the American government, I mean, there's people all around the world who are going to tell you, not big fans. Like, you got to start to wonder, are we the good guys or are we the bad guys now? Like, what's going on here?
I think we firmly cemented ourselves as the bad guys when we went after weapons of mass destruction, right? We did that. I mean, you guys know this. I don't need to tell you, but I mean, for the audience, like, we did that within 2 months of a foreign nation accepting a foreign currency for oil.
Yeah.
Right. And then we go in, claim there's weapons of mass destruction,
Which was
countless
a
lives
lie.
lost. Right. And
Yeah, it wasn't accidental.
no, of course not. So I think we firmly cemented ourselves as the bad guys then.
The other
We all didn't believe it until recently, but
the other thing I wanted to add too, like with whether, like Lisa, when you were mentioning how like Donald Rumsfeld and Dick Cheney, like, do they really think that they did things for the greater good, like, or like not even the greater good, but just the betterment of the American people? Like, I've been researching some stuff in around Kennedy's presidency lately, and you look at Director of the Central Intelligence Alan Dulles, and like, if we haven't been brought off YouTube yet for this video, this is going to do it. But Alan Dulles, like, you look at some of his like initiatives, especially around Indonesia and Vietnam, there was none of that was for the American people. That was all for him, all of it. And it's like dovetail that with like the conversation we had in the intro, just like these politicians are Washington D.C. They know that they don't need the people's buy-in to do whatever they want. They have the money printer.
No,
They can do literally whatever they want with that. Like,
it's true.
just like, what's the point?
and then get an airport named after you in return.
Yep.
So, but yeah, as far as the legacy goes, it's about control. It's about maintaining their power, and it's about serving one another. It's not about serving the world. It's about serving their world, and improving their own condition and their own place in life. And and it bothers me as well to know that, we've got this amazingly valuable, these amazingly valuable operations that are being moved out of our country that can benefit us and our national security and all of our people here. And then in turn ripple out around the world and influence and impact everybody positively, and it's leaving. And so, and it's not just the fact that it's happening, but when that time comes where it's undeniable the benefit that it is having for the other places where the mining is then occurring, the people that we're talking about, they're not just going to say, oh well, we missed out on that. No, they're going to go after it then, and then try to take it. Not try, but they are going to take actions to then obtain it by force, which is the natural, not natural, but that is the historical event that they always find themselves in. Not find themselves in, but that's the path that they always seek out. And what it does is, then that becomes the next generation's, WMDs, because they'll obviously, concoct some type of a story where we've got to go in here and set free all these Bitcoin mining rigs in this country that, they're in the danger of being, in the hands of terrible terrorists or, anti-Semites or whatever the flavor of the month is going to be at that time, and then concoct the big story. And the masses on, regular Twitter or wherever people are these days, they're going to go for it, and half are going to be for it, half are going to be against it. But it's going to come down to, more and more death to America type stuff. Man, I probably shouldn't have said that line, but
It wasn't me.
Sorry.
I can provide believe it or not, as the resident Doom Lord, I can provide a little glimmer of hope here for this conversation around like pushing Bitcoin miners out. I was informed by an individual who is personally involved that there is going to be a new nuclear project coming online that is going to be funded like from the ground up with Bitcoin mining. Nice. So that will be coming. It's just that it's going to take years to do it, and then it's going to take probably a year or two to prove it, right? Like, that's the hard part, right? We're looking, and this is like, all of us here have like been talking about it ad nauseum for the last couple of years, like trying to get Bitcoiners to understand and accept, like, this stuff is going to take decades. Like, this isn't like a 6-month thing. It isn't like a one epoch, one bull market thing. Like, we're in this for the long haul, and there's going to be some painful bumps in the road. But Lisa, I wanted to ask you, so like, because we've had some pretty complicated and fun conversations around your past with like energy trading. Could you, and this has nothing, well, it has some to do with Bitcoin, but could you talk about like the dynamism that was involved with your energy trading? Like I think one of my favorite attributes was that you looked at the weather for it, right?
Yeah.
Can you talk about like that kind of stuff?
There is this Digital Wildcatters put out with an energy trader, one of the best energy traders of all time, Bill Perkins. There were like two super notable energy traders from back in the day, John Arnold, who went on to start Centaurus, and Bill Perkins, and they worked together at one time. Listen to that podcast, the Digital Wildcatters podcast. Yeah, because basically when I hear people on Twitter talking about the charts and day trading, and they're analyzing MicroStrategy stock, and they're all like, sorry, but they're all like 35-year-old guys or younger, and their prowess is huge, right, on this topic. It's totally fine, but like, that's just not what trading really looks like. And maybe I never traded equities, I traded commodities. So maybe in the equities world, that was real life. But in the commodities world, like, we were information gatherers. We looked for information. You need edge, right? I would wake up every day. First thing I would do is look at the weather. I'd look at the Weather Channel, and then we subscribed to these weather services that were just, expensive as all get out, so that we thought, well, we'd have better weather, because every degree change in the weather directly impacts the amount of energy that's needed to run a power plant. So we were data collectors. That was the edge. And I actually got my first promotion when I was trading. I was working at Vastar Resources. It was a production company. Really, really enjoyed it, learned a ton. And I was trading physical gas. And when you start in the gas world, you start out on a physical desk, and you're typically a junior trader. So you're kind of bearing witness to what's going on, and you're doing a lot of like ticket entry and that kind of stuff. Our financial trader, a guy named Brick Deemer, started his brokers started calling, and they're like, oh my God, something's happened in the ship channel. There's a pipeline called the Houston Ship Channel. Something's happened in the ship channel, and ship channel prices like just took off, and Brick is reacting, right? He's trading. And I'm like, I wonder if that's really real. So I picked up the phone and I called the Houston Ship Channel dispatch, and I said, hey, and I made up something of where I was from. Like I was from a news desk, like, is something going on or whatever? And they were like, oh yeah, tug was stuck, but like, we got it out, it's gone, everything's fine. And I turned Brick and I was like, okay, I spoke to the ship channel, it's fine. And they all looked at me and they were like, you called the Houston Ship Channel? I'm like, well, like, yes, I called the Houston Ship Channel, right? Like, there was you weren't like interneting, it wasn't all live. I mean, this was a long time ago.
You impersonated a news organization?
But see, this is where Lisa's roots as a Bitcoiner started. She was verifying very early on.
Yes, fucking verify, right? Like, come on. No, I mean, that's, yeah, Mike and I have had, I do not like Mike. I didn't want him to show up today. He moved to Houston, and we spent a ton of time together, because at the time I would not let him tell people this, but I hired him. He was my trainer. He would show up. I live in a high rise. He would show up in the gym of our high rise at like 5:45 in the morning, and we'd work out and have coffee, and then he'd go, and whatever. It was the best. We had the best conversations, intellectual conversations, Bitcoin and otherwise, and worked out. I was getting in great shape. And then he moved.
What a punk. I can't believe that shit.
His entire health has fallen apart since.
I got to tell you, I think there's a cure here, Lisa. I just think you got to pay him more, and then
I've
he'll
offered.
then he'll turn around. I mean, it sounds like he left for bigger markets. This was what it sounds like.
To be truthful, I have offered to marry him. I have offered to adopt him. What is it going to take? You write the deal. Like, happy with any outcome. We'll figure it out. He will not leave Iowa. He's back.
The whole strategy was to lead up to this exact point, so I could. Lisa is literally just making me more desirable for everybody else.
That's great.
It's a long game.
Anyway, yeah. So, yeah, I don't know where we were going with all that, Mike, but is that what the story you wanted me to tell?
It's
Yeah.
pretty funny.
So, but I was kind of wanting to, and maybe this isn't really relevant, but is there, in your opinion, is there a way like where that kind of experience like ties into like specifically like Bitcoin and Bitcoin pricing? Because like say for example with miners and like hash price and like how the fluctuation of gas, like the price of gas and everything like plays in. Like, can you kind of talk about that kind of stuff, or am I kind of like just like grasping at straws and there's nothing there?
You know what I'm going to tell you? Nobody has all the information. You
Yeah.
think that you do. I mean, there might be a John Arnold and a Bill Perkins that trade in Bitcoin. Maybe they trade the Bitcoin futures market. I don't know who those people are. Nobody, and maybe it's Binance, right? Maybe it's Coinbase or Binance, whoever has got the biggest order book. I mean, so in the nat gas world, you'd always have market makers. I traded the East Coast, but there was West Coast, Mid-Continent, Gulf Coast, and then the East Coast. And so I started in the Gulf and then traded up into the East Coast, which was like the widowmaker of all widowmakers, because when the pipelines are big and plentiful in the Gulf, right, there's a lot of gas that's here, there's a lot of storage that's here, and then as assets flow up, everything becomes constrained. There's not as much storage. Obviously, it's much colder in the Northeast than in the Gulf, right? So demand is super sensitive to weather. Not sure I was going with that either, but I don't know who the market makers are in Bitcoin. I mean, I was a market maker on the East Coast in gas 100 years ago. There were market makers in every market. There must be market makers here, but the crux is you don't have all the information and you'll never have all the information. You're always, 500 days behind. Like, again, to the guys on Twitter, like, can you please just get a hobby, go read a book? Like, stop. you don't have an edge. Right?
Okay, well,
alpha.
Let me share this. Like, I do think you're right. I think there are market makers in Bitcoin. I think they're mostly the big OTC desks. I think that if you have access to flows, for example, some of you guys know I work at Swan, managing director with Swan Private. We see a lot of flows daily, right? Now, Swan is a very small part of the ecosystem. I don't know how big of a percentage we are, but we see enough that in my personal experience, what I've seen is you've got people who are out there doing TA all the time, but we can just look at what clients are doing. Like if we see clients that are, if our big clients at Swan are buying, we know there's a lot of strength. If they're not, if it's quiet, we know the price is potentially very squishy. And in my anecdotal experience, that's been very accurate, way more accurate than the TA guys who are out there saying, well, this is what I think is going to happen, because they're always analyzing data that's post facto, right? So the data they're analyzing, like all this stuff has already happened. Like we see it daily in real time. So I think there's something to that. I agree with it. I'm not sure that it's going to be 100% perfect all the time, but I feel like it's a fair measure.
Okay, but I would take the flip side of that, and I concur with kind of the thought process, because when I worked at Unchained, same thing, right? But and maybe your markets were different, but at Unchained, and at the time, I know their business has grown a lot. It was a lot of retail, it was a lot of individuals, and so I do get super excited when the price goes higher, right? I'm convinced every Satoshi that I bought at 69,000. Convinced. I get super excited when it almost hits 70, and I always buy it. And now I just put on Twitter, like, I've bought some, surely it's going to go to 14,000 again. I would say to you that probably the market makers see all of that, and that's when they're selling, right? They're like, okay, the retail crowd, we're excited. Now let's I mean, they're just
here's the weird thing, like our this is maybe a little bit inside baseball. I might even get in trouble for talking about this, but like a huge chunk of Swan's volume is actually private, meaning very large customers,
Yeah, sure.
And so it's much less retail than it is the larger amounts.
So, you know what? I just wanted to touch on one thing about Swan that I think is super cool, right? Your mining operation that you've spun up, right? Talk about good data. I mean, you guys are no longer just an order book for buying Bitcoin. Like
Yeah.
you're in the trench.
Yeah.
And having access to, I mean, you'll have a whole nother level of information, right? It's kind of the difference between trading a financial book and you're trading with brokers and then being a physical trader and you actually know what's happening on the ground. You know that a compressor station just went down and the minute it goes down, right? The information flows up to the right people. But I mean, I think that's super cool that you guys launched your mining, and I mean, there's kind of like a whole nother theory that I have gotten on board with. It's not mine, it's Bob Burnett's. It's just a different rabbit hole, but the whole block space theory, I think it's, do you want to talk about block space for a second? I can probably make this point.
We can, yeah, by all means, let's hear it.
So Bob Burnett has given a couple of talks, and he gave one at BitBlock Boom, where he talks about the future of block space. And, you know, again, to Mike's point, like I like to put data together. So I read a lot of, I've got like the new Goldman report on data centers. I, you know, read basically what the heads of companies are saying. It's what I want to know what their narrative is, because I feel like they leave us clues. And if you look at Larry Fink's last investor letter, his annual letter, he talks about how he's concerned for Americans in their retirement. He goes on TV and he talks about everything in the world being tokenized. I don't want to like start a debate in Bitcoin, but if BlackRock decides that they are going to tokenize all assets, and we know as Bitcoiners that anything that is going to be secured by a blockchain, for it to be secured, it has to happen on top of Bitcoin, then how do we reconcile those two things? Is the demand actually in the future going to be for Bitcoin, the scarce asset, or will the demand be for block space? And I think I am beginning to agree with Bob Burnett that it will be for block space, because all of those financial transactions have to have a place to be settled, right? Which is why I think like the Coinbase Lightspark thing is incredible. Incredible. They, you know, promoting the Lightning Network, making that accessible and touchable, right? Like for everyday people, just to like, okay, now I know what Lightning is, right? Nobody knew what it was before. If you're not in Bitcoin, you don't know, you don't care. But now it's like, oh, I have this other thing I can use. The fees are lower. Anyway, I think that the demand for block space will continue to increase. When I was at BitBlock Boom, I had a meeting with a company that's building block space derivatives, which I think is an incredible idea. I think derivative build outs of all markets are good for markets. Mike and I have had this conversation many, many times.
I was actually going to ask you to talk about why futures markets and derivatives are particularly helpful and healthy for Bitcoin miners.
Well, I think liquidity, right? But I mean, many reasons. Like I loved kind of Alex going down the rabbit hole earlier of, you know, first order effect, second order effect, third order effect. But which I think is exactly right in all things, for the derivatives market. I mean, before, you know, kind of this Bob Burnett thesis on block space, I just thought, well, it'll be good for the miners because it'll be a way for them to, you know, sell forward hash rate, which will help them then finance operations, which, you know, maybe it increases the ability to use Bitcoin as collateral. Like I started to think all of those, you know, kind of normal first order, second order effects. But now I mean, I'm really convinced that like block space is the scarcity. How do we cement everything on top of the Bitcoin blockchain without the block space?
Yeah, I think it's a fascinating position, and it's I met someone last year who has a company that they essentially they store genetic data within the block space, and it's fascinating. I mean, it's there's no other more secure place for them to do that. I mean, we're talking about individuals, genetic data, which is something that is extremely extremely important to each and every one of us. Specifically, like they go down to like zygotes, to reproductive data, so they can store that data there for whatever purposes they may need it for in the future. And it's amazing. And I try to picture a world where maybe a couple of decades in the future, maybe 100 years, maybe after all of the Bitcoin has been mined and it's here, and and then it's not, then it's not even a discussion anymore. It exists. It's part of life. We'll all be gone probably. Maybe, I don't know. Mike, you might be around. You're pretty healthy, man. But most of us are going to be gone. And, are they going to be still sitting around talking about, Bitcoin is, it's real money and this and that? I think it's just going to be a way of life. And then it's going to be those other, those next levels that are really going to be explored. We've got all of our different layers now. And of course, we like to talk about layer 0, which is the people layer, the humans, which I believe is the most important layer of all of this. Can you share with us a little bit about what you have seen in your experiences as far as the importance of community within this Bitcoin ecosystem?
I mean, my thesis for life is that community is everything. Right? We need it. I went down a rabbit hole several years ago about happiness, and what really leads to happiness is and we all know it's not money, it's not cars, it's not any of that, right? What factually it turns out to be is who you have around you, right? It's your church community, it's your spouse, your kids, it's your neighbors. I mean, I think at the end of the day, like I said at the beginning, we're all here we're put on earth to serve others, to do good things. And really, we wind up serving ourselves. So in 2013, I broke my femur. And so I had a lot of time to lay around and listen to podcasts. And a podcast that I loved was this woman named Lisa B. Marshall. And she did a podcast on charisma. It really wasn't like charisma in the way that you think of charisma. Basically, she cited a study, which if I'd known I'd talk about this, I would have told you what it was. But she cited a study that basically tracked the interactions that people have during the day. And we have like approximately, I can't remember if it's 1,100 or 11,000. I think it's like 1,100 interactions a day. That is everything from you waking up and saying good morning to your child, spouse, cat, to you letting someone over in traffic who's, otherwise cutting you off, right? The way that we react to those things directly impact whether or not we grade our day as a good day or a bad day. And you need 7 out of every 11 interactions to be positive in order for you to feel like you had a good day. They did a whole study on this.
That's cool.
And so I figured out, like, in that moment, in fact, I actually classify my life as before I broke my leg and after I broke my leg, because I did all this kind of, not to be like weird, but you just figure a lot of stuff out when you're laying in bed for a year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's okay to be weird here. No problem. There's no problems with that.
My whole life stopped.
Yeah.
Hey,
yeah.
That's
a huge event.
Yeah.
Wasn't driving Ella to school. I wasn't cooking dinner. I wasn't living my life playing tennis, or I wasn't doing anything in my life. So all I could really do while I was recovering was think and read, and we were weird. We don't watch a lot of TV. And there was, I don't know, maybe there was social media. I wasn't on it. So I just was like, gosh, it is literally my decision whether or not I'm happy when the guy cuts me off or not, or whether I'm not irritated or I am irritated.
That's it right there.
Yeah. For that reason, like everything in my day, I go out of my way to like make the interaction pleasant. Even if someone cuts me off, I'm like, that's fine. Come on over. Like I invited them.
I love
because it impacts me directly.
I hope you folks who are listening to this are paying attention, because Lisa is dropping some real wisdom here. Like, there's a saying that like you decide whether you're going to be happy or not. Happiness is a choice.
Yep.
So the amazing thing about being a human, the difference between a human and an animal is animals will react based upon their wiring and how they're programmed to react to situations. Humans can actually pause between the stimulus and how we choose to react to that thing. And if you just pause in the middle there and make a choice, that'll make all the difference. And like, if I can give a quick little plug, like I think you're onto something with the community, with the choice for happiness, with the choice for being a good person, supporting others, serving others, all that. I'm going to plug really quick. Like, that's what's happened with Bitcoin veterans. It's been this amazing process where all these dudes and gals have come together. They're supportive of each other. They help sharpen each other. They don't put up with each other's bullshit. We call each other out. We make each other stronger. We help each other find purpose. We grow extended support networks. We're encouraging resilience. We're encouraging leadership. We're encouraging honor and respect amongst each other. And it's just turned into this amazing flywheel of community, of people who are finding purpose and helping each other.
Golly, the amount of good stuff that's coming out of this show. Layer 0 is the most important part by far. And the fact that you guys are saying that, like, I got to tell you, I did a little research coming into this, and I'm glad I did, because I wanted to, get to understand and kind of know what makes you tick. I got to lay in bed for a long time a couple of years ago, and it changed my life too. It was one of those things where I started looking at the world, even more optimistically, right? As you make that recovery and you get a little back here and there, you're more and more grateful. That grateful heart in even bad situations, in the worst situations, that's that muscle that you got to build up. That's that reflex. Instead of going, the other direction and having a bad day, it's like, how do I turn this into, hey, listen, I've still got X, Y, and Z in front of me. The day is still fantastic. I've still got an amazing opportunity. That's that muscle that you have to build instead of that reflex that Alex was talking about. Take that time to pause, stop, consider what's really going on, and inject that gratitude. Tell us a little bit, if you wouldn't mind, about the Good Life Guide and how that's opened up your life a little bit.
Oh, I will. Wow. Yeah. So the Good Life Guide. So I had this fear when Ella was born that I had this like feeling come over me that I was going to die. Actually, factually, seriously, I almost did die, and she almost died when I was giving birth to her. We almost died. So I don't know if that just, I held on to like, I'm going to be robbed of my time with her. But when she was 5, I started writing down just like, I call it bumper sticker wisdom, like stuff I wanted to tell her. Like, I have to tell her this, and I'm just going to write it down because she's not old enough to hear it today, nor will she ever remember it. Well, it turned into a note on my iPhone, like in the Notes app. And she actually didn't get a phone until she was in high school. But when she got her own phone and she had the Notes app, I shared it with her. And so we share it still today. And I occasionally add things to it. I did add actually 2 things yesterday. But sometimes it's months that I don't, add a tip, but it's like 130 somethings long. Some of them are very funny and some of them are serious. But they're all just like bumper sticker sort of like tips. Like, you don't have to do this, but I think if I would have known this would have helped me type things. And she actually wrote her essays for college about the book.
Wow.
That's really
That
cool.
is cool.
That is so awesome.
Which is like winning an Academy Award of parenting.
No, it actually is. It really is, because nowadays it's actually commonly weird for kids to want to be friends with their parents as they get older.
Yeah.
So it's way more rare for a young person to want to be friends and maintain a relationship and talk to them and like counsel with them and all these kind of things. It's a very rare thing. You know, it's like I only know this because my daughter at one point was talking to a group of her friends at college, and she's like, yeah, I was talking to my dad about this thing and like, you know, asking his advice. And they were all like, wait, what? You talk to your dad and you ask advice? Like, who does that? You know, like, and they were all in agreement, like nobody does that. So it's like super common for kids nowadays that they do. And it just, I think it speaks volumes about you as a parent, and it's awesome.
Likewise.
If our audience is just now putting together, or maybe hasn't put it together, Lisa is Ella Hough's mother, and obviously she's been on the show. You can go back; I think it's in the 20 range, maybe the early 30s. But you know, one show that I think stuck out to me as we've been doing Bitcoin Veterans, at how absolutely thrilled I was to have a new generation in this space that just blew people out of the water. I mean, she came in here, she changed the tone, she calmed the beast a little bit, and we had I think one of our best shows we've ever had.
She got us to curse a lot less.
Yeah, I mean, like almost zero. And I think that that's just the icing, but the substance of what we're seeing and what you've instilled in her, I think not only like that Academy Award, or like way bigger. This is what we need to be able to repeat. And in terms of what we do with Bitcoin Veterans, I know we talk about a lot of concrete, actionary, like this type of stuff, but like parenting is got to be one of the biggest pieces in the Bitcoin community. Is how are we raising this next generation? And Lisa, I think you've done obviously an outstanding job, actually setting a bar type of job. When you've got somebody like Ella going out there at her university that is making news for all the wrong reasons, but it made news because of her earlier, when she was able to kind of set her own trajectory, studying a course of Bitcoin there, and then introducing it to a bunch of people in the school that I've been keeping up with. Absolutely, if you're looking for understanding and how to parent and what to do, I think Lisa's probably got and I don't know, maybe just an idea. I don't know if that book is something that you would want to publish, but it might do a lot of people in this space a lot of good, maybe even to share with their own kids.
Oh, well, thanks. I do want to publish it. I've been saying that for years. I will just say, so people have asked me often for like Ella's whole life. They're like, oh my God, she's been like this her whole life. She was never the throw myself on the floor, cry kid. Never. She was always calm. Literally. She's cried I think one time maybe in her kind of adult, child life, her teenage life. And I don't really remember her crying when she was like in grade school. And she cried when we told her we were getting divorced, which was terrible. But we always just gave her a lot of power, right? So I actually just did a talk at BitBlock Boom about parenting. And I started off by just saying, you have to give your kids power, and it starts at a super early age. Do you want to wear this or this? Do you want to take a bath or a shower? Oh, you want to go to camp this summer and you're 8? Well, here's the 30 pages of stuff that you have to fill out, because I'm not going to fill out your forms for you because you're 8, right? Oh, you're going to go to camp? Okay, well, go print the packing list and go start packing your trunk, and then make a list. We'll go out one Saturday and we'll get what you want. Because they need shorts and t-shirts and bug spray. I was like, we're going to do that one time. She was gone for a month. Like, I made her do everything. And then she wanted to move to China. It was like, okay, well, that's like this many forms and visas and government approvals. Like, you have to go do that. I'm not doing that for you. And then, you know, kind of the punchline at Bitblock Boom was like, then she came to me and said, I really want to study Bitcoin, and I really want to go to Cornell and tell them I want to do an independent study. And I said, okay, great. Well, you know how to do it, right? Like, go build that, go write that out, go build that. You've been doing it yourself your whole life. You can totally do it. But like, it just starts super early. Like, give your kids power, let them make mistakes with you, have fun with them. I mean, my strategy was just always praise, never criticize, really recognize her effort. Wow, you worked really hard at that. Do you feel good about yourself? You know, I don't know. I had great parents. They didn't parent that way, but I mean, I have great parents. I think God gives you what you can handle. Maybe, you know, what does that say about me? But Ella, so actually, for people that don't know this, Ella actually does have a father, and he's amazing. And I always say, you know, you're so lucky God gave you two parents. She really is, because when she was born, she actually had colic, never quit crying. And I was so upset. I had quit my trading job, right? I was like living this amazing life, trading gas, right? Amazing life, trading gas. And then she was born, and she wouldn't quit crying. And I was home, and like, she never took a bottle. And I mean, like, looked at her one day, and I'm like looking at my ex-husband, and I'm like, I did not ask for this. And he looks at me and he's like, she didn't ask for this either. And I was like, I'm the worst parent ever, you know. So thank God she has two parents. Her life would have been drastically different. He's amazing.
I think it's also worth identifying that when you say praise and not criticize, praise also means not coddle, because like the way that you raised her is clearly void of coddling.
No.
Because I think that's one of the biggest problems with like parenting in America today, is that there's a whole lot of coddling and not a whole lot of actual praise.
Well, and actually, and here's the difference between the way I was parented and the way we parented. So when she was in, all right, well, okay, quick, I'm gonna make this super quick. I never sent her to school on time. We spent our summers in a tiny town in the north where it was cool outside. We spent all of our time outside. We did like, we played every sport. We had a library on our street. I mean, just idyllic, don't lock your door, 1950 community. So to come back to Houston in the middle of August to start school, I was like, this is not happening. We are not doing this. I'm not leaving here until Labor Day. So she'd always go back to school late. And she got back to school late, I don't know, like in second or third grade. And I wasn't back yet. So my parents drop her off at school. And my mom like calls me and she's like, oh my God, you know, they made Ella do this thing at school. This was so hard. She's so late. I can't believe you sent her back so late. You know, you need to fix this, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I'm not going to fix it. She'll figure it out. Like, it turns out they were teaching. They wanted them to come in and calm down and like Zentangle. Do you know what that means? It's like basically when you put your pen on paper and then you're drawing, but you're never lifting your pen up. And it was just the way the teacher wanted them to focus. But like my mom is like, you ruined her. She's going to never catch up. And I'm like, she's going to catch up. You know, and like, I mean, the next year Ella didn't do her math homework over the summer. She just didn't do it. We were gone the whole summer. She didn't do the summer math. She came down the day school started, you know, the day we got back and she was going to school and she's like, I didn't do my summer math homework. This is like fourth grade. I'm like, okay, Mom, can you call the school? Tell them I just couldn't do it. Tell them we don't have internet there, which is true. And I said, no, I'm not going to do that. We could have gone to the library. You could have done your homework at the library. Like, why weren't we doing that? I'm not in charge of your homework. You're in fourth grade. So I made her go to school. She's sobbing, crying. She actually was crying. This was one time she was crying, like, I can't, Mom. So I get in the car on the way home and I call my mom and I'm telling my mom the story. And my mom again is like, you're the worst parent. I cannot believe you were not going to save her. That is so stressful. And I'm like, dude, she's never going to be a grown-up if she doesn't start today. Right? Like, let's go ahead and get the responsibility thing out of the way in 4th grade. Because guess what? She never came to us for help with college essays, any homework. Like, she turned her stuff in on time. She did it herself. Like that's actually how life works, right? Like, we all know this as adults, but no parent wants to let their kid take on responsibilities when they're a kid. And yet we expect them to like go away at 21 and be independent. It's like, well, wait, they've never even put a bill in the mailbox before.
Right.
How are they supposed to make all the rest of this work?
I am really, really looking forward to this book.
Okay.
Yeah.
When you publish it, you let us know. We're going to promote the shit out of it because this sounds great.
It's just bumper sticker wisdom. That's all it is.
That means it's the best wisdom because it's quickly delivered and it's like quickly understood.
Yeah.
The worst kind of wisdom is the kind that only 1% of the population can understand.
Yeah. I just wanted her to have fun. I wanted her to be, so it's actually rules. Rule number 1 is be a good human. I wanted her to be able to walk into any room in any country, anywhere in the world by herself and succeed.
Yeah.
Right. Like, that was the goal.
Yeah, that's a great goal because, like, I've always thought that our jobs as parents is not to be their friend, but to prepare them for life. Like, that's our number 1 responsibility. And I think a lot of parents have it backwards. They're so busy trying to be that kid's friend that they forget your job is not to be their friend, but to make them ready for life.
Yeah. Your first job is to teach them how to survive and to thrive, and then you can be their friend when you're adults.
Exactly. Now, the funny thing about that is the parents who take the approach of making them ready for life, they continue to be friends with their kids when their kids are adults. It's the ones who are like, oh, I just want to be your friend. Instead of preparing them for life, later on, the kids are like, I'll be friends with you. Like, you didn't teach me shit, man.
And if they think you're a loser because you didn't teach them all the way in the world, like that's a big damn deal. Like, that's
and I think it's extremely important to kind of let them fail early. Like, in 4th grade, okay, you didn't do your summer, but I bet you in 5th grade, she did her summer homework before the school year started because she didn't want to experience that again, as opposed to, putting in those guardrails and always having the safety net for her and then letting her go off to Cornell and then experience failure for the first time when the stakes are a little bit higher. You allowed that to happen. You didn't force it to happen, but you allowed it to happen. You allowed that natural lesson to occur. And sometimes failure is the only way that those lessons really have the permanence that they need to shape us in a good way. And I see, I'm trying, my mind is making correlations here to Bitcoiners that are new, that are coming into this as well. And I see a lot of opportunity for that to happen also because, we find, you said rule number 1 is just, be a good human, just be a good human. And I see that sometimes, not all Bitcoiners are really, conscious about following rule number 1 when it comes to new people that are joining into the Bitcoin, into the Bitcoin journey. And they're not always just as good of a human being, some as perhaps they could be. And it's important for us to recognize the necessity for that and to, maybe let people that are newer to Bitcoin kind of stumble through a couple of things and fail early and make a couple of mistakes now, and then provide some corrective praise and guidance to them on their path. And and we see it, I can only speak for the communities that I'm a part of, but we see that in the Bitcoin veterans community as well. As we've got, guys, and ladies that are new that are coming into it, and they're at all kinds of different levels of experience and understanding and knowledge. But it tends to be very constructive. I mean, yeah, we're going to give each other a little bit of shit here and there, of course, because that's just part of the fun. But when it comes down to it, if someone comes in, they have an authentic question, or like, look, I don't know anything about this stuff, man. What is a wallet? And it's like, all right, cool. Well, hey, man, we got you. Let's go ahead and let's move that forward. Who do you see right now in the Bitcoin space that's really intentionally going forward and working to promote adoption with people that are coming in new to this? I mean, what do you see? I guess my question is, what are you most optimistic about when it comes down to adoption and what's working well?
Well, you guys, right?
I wasn't fishing for that. I'm just going to let you know.
But I mean, you guys, I think there's so many similarities, or there's so many places that Mike and I've talked about this many times, that the folks in the military, you protect the values that Bitcoin stands for. You know, liberty, freedom, private property rights, like, but also our kids. You know, I mean, Ella did start the Cornell Bitcoin Club. She didn't start it because it wasn't really a happy start. She had a falling out with the Blockchain Club, which she had joined because when she got to Cornell, she was like, I didn't know anyone, and you had to have like 8 people to make a club. She's like, I didn't know anyone, so I just joined that club. And then it just became a blockchain thing, and she's not a blockchain kid. And so she just said, you guys do your own blockchain thing where you change the rules all the time. Like, that's fine. I'm going to go over here and start a Bitcoin club. But, you know, and I told her, like, if you go to the first meeting and there's one person there, I was like, put it on tape, because literally, like, replay the Andres Antonopoulos thing where he's, you know, talking to one guy. It's like, that will be your Antonopoulos moment.
One guy with rows of empty chairs.
Right? Empty chairs. But I think they have 65 people. Her club's been going for 4 months. They have 65 people. She co-founded the Bitcoin Students Network, which basically is just a cheat code for how to stand up a club on your campus. And I think maybe they have 12, I don't know, maybe more than that. They call them nodes around the world already, right? Or maybe they're in 12 countries and there's like many more clubs. But I mean, since she's been there, like, a guy at Harvard started a club. Wow. Someone introduced himself to me in Austin. He's the founder of a club at Boulder, University of Colorado. Like, so these kids having Bitcoin club meetings, like, this is the way, right? We're never going to change. God bless Elizabeth Warren. Like, she was wrong.
Lisa, you are so damn classy, man. Like, you totally, like, improve the quality of the entire room. So thank you for being here.
Yes. That is the South. God bless her.
That's right. Bless your heart.
I love it.
Good Lord.
You guys ready for, I think, everybody's favorite part of the show? Speaking
Oh
of,
my gosh, here we go. The best part of the show. So Lisa, did anybody explain to you what this means? Story time?
Oh no.
We're gonna have to talk to our show prep guys. Okay.
Maybe they did. I'm a terrible listener.
Okay, so story time is something we do with every guest. And basically it is, think back through your life. If there are any amazing stories that you have to tell that were super impactful to you, we like lean in the direction of going for funny stories, but it doesn't have to be funny, just something that's good and impactful. Like, when you get to military guys, a lot of military guys are telling stories about crap that they went through that was really, like, difficult or challenging, and sucked while they were doing it. But in hindsight, really damn funny stuff you learned, things that you think will be useful for people going forward.
We're going to give you a minute to think on it as we do the usual.
Who said that? Who the fuck said that? Here you are all equally worthless. What if we're not here? Fucking police, private joke.
All right, soundboards, we got it. Yeah, dark humor is very much appreciated on this show. So if you have something that you find hysterical and it was a great life lesson or any of those kind of things, you want to share those bits with this crowd, like this crowd's all about that kind of humor. They love it.
I'm not sure I have any dark humor, but so I do have two things maybe I would share. They're quick. And this sort of leans into my bent on parenting. When, God, I told this story at BitBlock Boom, I think. I went to boarding school as a senior in high school. My brother had gotten into the Naval Academy, but the Naval Academy wanted him to do a postgraduate year at a boarding school. And he was not like the most, he was not a rule follower. He is super smart. He's, aside from Ella, probably my second favorite human on earth. Love him, speak to him every day. So my parents, we grew up, and I say it this way, 30 miles north of nowhere, in Houston, but north of Houston, very middle class, and, cute little neighborhood where every fourth house was the same, and everybody's dad took the bus to downtown, and everybody's dad worked for an energy company. And I'd never met a Jewish person before I went to boarding school. Like, if it gives you any sort of flavor of the homogeneity of my community, like it was just very bland, right? Like, I had never been anywhere. So I get this opportunity to go to boarding school as a senior. And I'm like, my parents take me on this trip. We go look at 4 or 5 schools. I absolutely loved Miss Porter's school, which is in Farmington, Connecticut. We walked onto the campus, like the sun was shining just the right way. And yeah, just amazing admissions person. Her name was Meg. Just had a great visit. And afterwards, my mom said, like, what'd you think? And I was like, oh, I could go here. And my parents are like, are you sure? Because like you're giving up a lot. I mean, I went to a 900 person public high school north of Houston. I had a boyfriend. I was in the homecoming court. Like, I had a car, right? Picture this, like suburban Houston. Like, I'm thinking I have the biggest life ever. And I'm like, yeah, I'm ready. I'm going to go do it. So my parents take me to school, move me in. My luggage is totally lost move-in day. So I'm wearing my sweats that I had on the day before when I was flying up on Continental. Continental lost my luggage. So everyone else is like in preppy, cute dresses. Because Miss Porter School is the school that Jackie Kennedy went to, and Gloria Vanderbilt and George Bush's sisters. And it's got this very long pedigree. So here I am with like my big blonde hair and my blue eyeshadow, right? I'm from suburb north of Houston, and there's all these New York City girls, and they're all so thin and preppy and beautiful. They still are. And I love them. They're some of my best friends. But I'm in the dorm room, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, my dad is helping me move in. And I don't know, my mom was off somewhere. And I'm like close to having a breakdown. I'm really tough. I hardly ever cry. I'm close to having a breakdown. And my dad looked at me and he's like, I think that you're going to love it here. I think that you're going to go do great things. But if you don't like it, I will come and get you. And that really stuck with me. And that's what I tell Ella. I'm like, if you get somewhere and you are stuck, I will come and get you. And you know what? I've never called my parents to come and get me anywhere. And I feel like I've gotten myself in some real pickles. And Ella, neither has Ella. And she's lived in Africa and in China, and she's been in boarding school since she was 14. Like, she's been away. Like, just kind of give your kids the power to go believe in themselves to do anything. And so it really wasn't a huge shock when I graduated from college. So 8 years later or whatever, 5 years later, I'm graduating from college, 1 year of boarding school and then college. And I had mailed all these resumes to all these energy companies. And had got a job offer at this Solomon Brothers, excuse me, Solomon Brothers. The trading desk for Solomon was called Fibro, and I was an analyst on their heavy fuels desk. And someone really early in your show asked, like, what skill set do they need in Bitcoin? And I made a note of that, because if they're still listening, I think it was Dr. Nick, if you're still listening, I would say, like, confidence and curiosity will take you further than anything else. So I get this job at Fibro. It's the night before. A friend calls me to, like, say, hey, good luck at your new job, right? This is like my first job out of college. By the way, I thought I was making all the money in the world, because I was making $28,000 a year right out of college. I just thought that I was like, I have made it. And so my friend calls, and my friend, boarding school friend, lives in New York and is a few years older, and says, are you going to work on their commodities desk or their equity desk? And I was like, no idea. Don't know what either one are. I guess I'll call you tomorrow. Right? It's like, just like do stuff. Just like, you don't need to know the answer to anything. You don't need to know the answer. You don't need to have a plan. You don't need to know anything. I didn't wake up knowing how to trade gas. I didn't know about Bitcoin 5 years ago. Here we are.
Yeah. I love it. Just get out there and live life and do it and learn as you go. I absolutely love it. Your dad, by the way, sounds like an amazing man.
He's a badass.
He sounds like a really cool guy. I saw something the other day having something to do with a flag. Is he doing something with a flag that has to do with BV somewhere?
Yeah. Yeah. He's my dad is in hospice. And y'all gave me your flag from BitBlock Boom, and I took it down and I put it up in his room. So, thank you.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Which, by the way, I just want to say, so he's at a VA hospital, and they suck, you guys. Like, we need Bitcoin. We need to be on a Bitcoin standard so that we can fix our freaking infrastructure, and especially our hospitals that support our veterans. Because, I mean, the nurses are great. A lot of really good people there, but the physical presence and the technology that they have, and like, it's so run down. And if I could do something to fix it, I totally would. It's just a bigger problem than I can solve. So I'm just grateful that I live, 20 minutes from him, and I can go see him every day, which I do. And sometimes he's with me and sometimes he's not, but he has this gigantic Bitcoin veteran flag in his hospital room. So thank you.
Thank you.
Amazing. Mm-hmm. That's so cool. Yeah. And thanks for sharing that with us. And I mean, that's a big part of the reason behind why we're doing what we're doing, because the more veterans that are exposed to Bitcoin and are able to truly be sovereign and are able to truly have power, the more influence we can have and the more change we can affect in things exactly like that, because it is a broken system. It is awful, and it has completely failed our veterans, and we all know it. And the more power we have, the more we can change that. So thank you for sharing that example with us as to why what we're doing matters the way that it does.
Desperately matters.
Oh, yeah. I'm just looking at the chat. There is so much love for you, Lisa.
Oh,
right?
Thank you. Amazing. I don't know how to get the chat, but thank you.
Just lots of shout outs, lots of prayers, lots of love.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
I really appreciate you guys having me. I would do anything for you. I just, besides my dad, my first cousin was in Fallujah. He was a sniper. The History Channel has made 3 shows about him. He's a total badass. But really suffered.
What service was he in? Well, I mean, some of our guys might know him.
That's such a good question. I think he was a Marine. His name is Ethan.
Yeah.
He's-
Let's just keep his name out. If Ethan would like to talk to another Marine that was there with him in some of those hides.
He's very public, so I'm not giving you anything that's not out there.
Right on. Yeah.
We've got Torab Hodel mentioning in the chat here about Brave Mission. That's something I want to shout out real quick. By the way, I want to shout out both these guys. I want to shout out Gabe Lord, who is running Operation Bitcoin, which is a fantastic initiative, part of Bitcoin veterans, but doing his own thing, helping veterans, training veterans, preparing them for jobs in the Bitcoin ecosystem, connecting employers with veterans, and he's doing a fantastic job. Shane Hazel is running the Brave Mission, which is a PTSD mission. So just shout outs and kudos to both of these guys. They're phenomenal dudes, amazing leaders, and I'm honored to know them.
Thanks, man. You guys are, this is a pretty powerful episode. We're having some serious conversations here. But yeah, it's, you know, tell Ethan to come down to Nashville is what I got to say, man. Tell him to come on down, because I'd love to meet him. And I know that there's a bunch of guys that want to as well. And we're just, this is the community that he belongs in, is all I'm going to say.
All of the veterans do, right? Like, this is what I love about your show is that you really highlight the humanity of Bitcoin, right? None of us are cypherpunks. Not that they're not humans, not that they're not amazing, but none of us are sort of in that group of people that, like, I don't understand that world. I don't have an insight into that world. I think, you know, your show is always just a very, it's just a very sort of American stand-up, I don't know, working class, I consider myself, kind of show for the everyday person. And that's who Bitcoin benefits.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. It's about the people. And I want to shout out to you, Lisa. You've always been extremely supportive of what we're doing here. And we've, you know, and I've been lucky enough to meet you a couple of times at a couple of different conferences. And I could tell, you know, I mean, your authenticity and you're just such a genuine person. And it's not as common in this world as it should be. And you possess that, and it's just always been amazing. So I appreciate it. And I know that, you know, on social media, you've always, you know, you've been a champion for us, and you've been very supportive of us as a group. And I know some of our individual Bitcoin veterans as well in many different ways. So it's awesome to have you as an ally and as a friend to this group, and to me as an individual as well. So thanks for doing what you're doing, because it kicks ass, and I appreciate it. And also thanks for helping us to level up our group here tonight, because it's you just bring a different dimension, you know, and you spoke about you know, having your daughter, you know, bring something into the room. And I would say that you've been successful in that because you are so good at setting that example, because it's exactly what you do. And I appreciate it. It's an amazing quality. And we're fortunate to have you here tonight. And I'm going to say, it might be a bold statement, but I think it's completely accurate that Bitcoin itself is fortunate to have you on this mission, because you're making it happen. So thank you.
You know what, guys, I like, you are my community, you know. It's I went to a lunch with a bunch of people I used to be friends with. I'm still friends with them. But a bunch of women from my play tennis every day, pick up Bell at carpool, everyday life, that I had for a while. And it's like, I really like them and all of that, but I don't know. I just feel like this is work I can't not do, right? Like, I could never go back to unknowing. I could never go back to just living on autopilot. Like, you know, Jack Mallers, I will die on this hill right here. Like, we are fucking doing this, Right. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Let's go.
Alex, Mike, you guys got any closing thoughts here?
No, I will just say thanks, Lisa, for tearing up, because you were making me tear up earlier. So thanks a lot for that.
You're very sensitive, Hobart.
Now, hey, you're not supposed to say that on camera. Like, save that for later.
Lord, for God's sakes.
I have a reputation to uphold.
Mike's all like, I'm not crying, you're crying.
Dang, what happened to your plumber?
He's pulling up, so we're gonna wrap here in a minute.
Perfect timing.
I'll let my wife handle the first part of it down there, so I'll be down in a second. But Alex, any closing statements real quick?
Well, I just want to say thanks for being here, Lisa. You're fantastic. You're an inspiration, I think, to a lot of people in the Bitcoin ecosystem and the community. Everybody knows who you are. You're very thoughtful. You're very deep. You have a lot of character. You've obviously raised an amazing daughter, so you're a great parent. Yeah, and you're just full of heart. And I think you exemplify in a lot of ways what Bitcoiners are about. So just thanks for being here. You're awesome.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, Lisa, from all of us, thank you. Alex and Gabe and Mike and Jordan and the rest of the Bitcoin veterans out there. We are all appreciative of what you do in the space, for showing up here tonight and hanging out with us and really giving us more of a glimpse into who you are. I think that you really strike a nerve, and the fact that, you've brought most of us to tears and some of us really fighting them back tonight. I think this is the beautiful thing about Bitcoin veterans, is we can be these ridiculous ape dragging or knuckle dragging apes out here, and at the same time, come into this really cool place that we've built and this community, and actually let it fly like human beings, and not be real afraid to show that, hey, listen, we're actually here for humans and we're here for freedom and sovereignty. If this is what you want to be a part of, man, get in here, contact us, drop us a message in Twitter, wherever, and we're gonna plug you in. We're gonna show you how amazing this Bitcoin community is and how amazing the Bitcoin veteran community is. It is a lot of action. It is what you want to do. It is decentralized. So if you think you can do something, come show us what you can do. And I'm guarantee you there's going to be guys that want to help you out, whatever that is. Lisa, you've been a real inspiration in the space. I'm lucky enough to have worked with you last summer and get to know you a little bit better. Now I feel like there's so much more. There's this bigger picture with family and everything else that we're looking at, and I appreciate you giving us a glimpse into that and sharing it with us. We're going to do a lot more kind of this stuff in the space. I hope to see you at Nashville. Hopefully have you out on the range with us again.
Yeah.
And for everybody else, if you need tickets, contact us. I think we've got a little over 100 more, maybe less than 100. I think we hit the century mark today, Gabe. Big job there. We will get you a 70% discount to Bitcoin in Nashville, Bitcoin Magazine's conference, and then PB. We have a bigger one for that one, so get in contact with us there. And it's we've got some hookups out there. Go out there and
by the way,
go ahead.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but just to qualify something here for people who are watching this and are like, well, I'm not a veteran, so I don't qualify. We have a civilians auxiliary division of Bitcoin veterans.
Yep.
Connect with us. If you're part of that, you qualify. So 70% off tickets to Nashville 2024. Let's go.
Yeah.
I want to just give a quick shout out to Mickey Cost. He sent Ella and I tickets to your party. So
nice.
Everybody, please come to that party. That is going to be a blast.
Yeah, you can get tickets in the same channels for that you can get for everywhere else, and it's going to be a blast. If you've never partied with veterans, these guys come into Nashville. I think we're going to have a great time. We're going to try to be as responsible and take care of each other as possible, and the community that we're there to serve. There is a community service day, I think, on the 24th, Gabe, is that correct?
Yeah, that's right.
25th, we're going to be going to the range. The 26th, we'll be at the conference with the Citadel, where we are going to be teaching ham radio, survival skills, homeschooling, homesteading, you name it, you're going to meet a lot of the fantastic guests that we've had on this show and the Bitcoin community, or Bitcoin veteran community at large. I hope you guys will be there. I hope you'll seek us out, and then do what Bitcoiners do, and that's get to know each other and start helping your community and growing and adding to this network. It's absolutely the most amazing network you can be a part of. Thank you guys for all being here tonight again, and I will we'll catch you next week, 7 p.m. Eastern, Thursday. See ya.
Good night.